I would just like to welcome everyone to the National Press Theater. I'll be the moderator for any questions and answers that come up for this press conference. The question and answer portion is reserved for accredited members of the press gallery only at this time. And if anyone chooses to join from the room, we'll start there. Otherwise, we will go to Zoom. And otherwise, I'll hand it off to the participants. If you can please just introduce yourself before speaking. Thank you.
If you could just stand here, actually. Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ali Assassi. I'm the Member of Parliament for Willowdale. And the reason I'm here today is because I'd like to welcome over 35 advocates who have descended upon Ottawa today to talk about the significance of gender apartheid. We're very, very grateful that all these delegates are here. They are here to join a global campaign to ask that Canada agree to the definition of gender apartheid and that our country also take the lead in international fora to make sure that those discussions are taking place. Now, the two countries we're very much concerned about, and the 35 delegates are here representing, are Afghans in Canada and Iranians in Canada. And I'm very privileged to say that among the incredible delegates that we've seen today who have been talking to senators and MPs, we also have 5 members of parliament from Afghanistan. So this is a burning issue. There are many discussions that are going on in international fora recognizing the crime of gender apartheid as something that should be codified. So grateful to hear from 5 incredibly impressive individuals here. I will leave it to them to actually speak and talk about the significance of all the international discussion that is going on. And I need not tell you that there are at least 4 different Nobel laureates who are on board with this, and many jurists as well. So having said that, it is my great privilege to welcome to the podium Dr. Homa Hoodfar. Dr. Hoodfar.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be here today. Although my colleagues will explain a little bit more about gender apartheid and our demands, I was asked to give the history of gender apartheid, the activism around it. Often people think it's just started since the Taliban have come back. I'm here to say we started the campaign of gender apartheid in 1982 when the Iranian revolution had succeeded and the Iranian regime introduced Sharia law, with which legally then Iranian women were counted half as worse as men through different laws that hopefully we get a chance to explain a little bit more. We try to discuss this with the UN Human Rights Committee, but they thought apartheid is too serious to consider women as part of gender apartheid. We try to discuss it with Amnesty International to support us in our campaign. They thought gender activism is not political activism. I go 10 years ahead. In 1997, when Taliban had come back, have started their policies, which was even worse than the Iranian situation. Then we started the campaign. Feminist Majority and 100 other organizations joined our campaign, and we were advancing well, we were having discussion. Then 9/11 happened, after which then nobody wanted to hear about gender apartheid. But today we are here to demand that gender apartheid should be recognized, and we do want Canadian government, which is advancing a lot of rights, and we have a feminist policy here to actually put this forward and discuss this, and also to see this as a principle. Gender apartheid should be part of the international law and not just the case of Iran or Afghanistan and others, which are at the forefront of this. Examples we can see, but I think it's very important that the international law recognizes that gender apartheid is an important aspect, and morally and legally international law should recognize this and prevent similar things. We need the tool to be able to resist regime like Taliban or Iranian situation. I don't have more time to discuss, but I'm happy to discuss later if there are questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hoodfar, for having been on the right side of history for so many decades. Now we will be hearing from Sabrina Sareb, who is one of the individuals who's gone through the very, very difficult task of making sure that today is a success. She is in large part due, the accolades are in large part due to her for having pulled together the incredible delegation that has come to Ottawa today. Sabrina.
Thank you, MP Essasi, and thank you for this opportunity. So I'm going to read the specific demands that this group, this advocacy group here today, has from the Government of Canada. Official recognition of gender apartheid. We urge the Canadian Parliament to officially recognize gender apartheid as a crime against humanity. By acknowledging the severity of this issue, Canada can play a pivotal role in raising global awareness and mobilizing international support for the eradication of systematic discrimination against women and girls. Advocacy for international legal framework. Canada, as a leader in human rights and peace building, must advocate within the United Nations for the development and implementation of a comprehensive international legal framework that specifically addresses gender apartheid. This framework should outline clear obligations as mechanisms to prevent and prosecute gender-based discrimination. Acceleration of ICC investigation. Canada should actively support the acceleration of the International Criminal Court investigation into the Taliban, specifically for the prosecution of grounds of gender as crimes against humanity. This includes providing necessary resources and cooperation to ensure the resolution of persecution of perpetrators. Support for UN resolution. We call upon the Canadian government to actively support and promote resolutions within the United Nations Security Council that prohibit and direct any direct aid or assistance in maintaining regimes practicing gender apartheid, particularly the Taliban in Afghanistan and the Islamic Republic regime in Iran. CEDAW Committee engagement. Canada should actively engage with the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, to push for the issuance of a general recommendation defining international obligations to prevent gender apartheid. This recommendation should be aligned with existing international norms and laws on gender apartheid. Leadership in development of international protocols. The Canadian Parliament should take a leading role in advocating for the development of an optional protocol to CEDAW that defines and criminalizes gender apartheid. This protocol must hold perpetrators internationally accountable and globally and obligate states to support and prevent the crimes of gender apartheid. Initiation of a new UN convention. Canada should champion the urgent initiation of the development and adoption of a new UN convention specifically criminalizing gender apartheid. This convention should provide a robust international legal framework to combat and eliminate gender-based discrimination. Promotion of feminist principle in international law. Advocate for feminist principles and universalism in human rights to be reflected in existing and emerging international law. By doing so, Canada can contribute significantly to bridging the gap between rhetoric and tangible progresses in safeguarding women's human rights globally. We believe that Canada, with its strong commitment to human rights and global peace, has a unique opportunity to spearhead meaningful change. We urge the Canadian Parliament to take swift and resolute action to address the urgent and critical issues of gender apartheid, sending a powerful message that discrimination against women and girls will not be tolerated on the world stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. The many issues that you have raised have been part of the issues that have been raised with members of Parliament and senators that this extraordinary group has had the opportunity to meet with. Next, we go to Rose Bahrami, who is a lawyer from the City of Toronto and has been incredibly active on this front. And we're very happy to welcome her to the podium today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Firuza Rose Bahrami. I'm also here on behalf of the Iranian Canadian legal professionals. We are here a group of Iranian and Afghan Canadian activists who are here to ask the government of Canada to take leadership in the international scene to list gender apartheid as a crimes against humanity, to provide a new recourse for those affected by these laws, and also to advocate gender equality in the world. Unfortunately, misogyny exists everywhere in the world, but nowhere else has it been enshrined in law as it has been in Iran under the Islamic Republic and in Afghanistan under the Taliban. The killing of Mahsa Amini in September 2022 and the nationwide protest that ensued, known as the Women Life Freedom Movement, brought worldwide attention to these gender apartheid laws that Iranian women have been living under for over 4 decades, discriminating them in issues of marriage, child custody, foreign travel, employment, education, etc. Since then, there has been increasing restrictions on the rights of women and girls and ever-aggressive means to impose them. The regime has labeled many women's rights activists as enemies of the state, subjecting them to severe sentences. Canada has a commitment to feminist foreign policy and gender equality as pillars of its policies to advocate peace and security around the world, and we think is in unique position to take the leadership on the international scene at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bahrami. We next go to Ms. Azam Jangravi. Ms. Azam Jangravi is very well known to many people who have been following developments in Iran. She was treated very, very poorly in Iran. There were a number of laws that were invoked against Ms. Jangravi. It's been several years that she has arrived in Canada, but she has always been at the forefront of activism, making sure that issues pertaining to gender apartheid are addressed. Ms. Jangravi, great to have you here.
Thank you, Ali John. I am so glad to be here. As a person who protested against mandatory hijab 6 years ago, I faced a lot of things. I was convinced to 3 years in prison. They want to take away my daughter from me, and they didn't allow me to study again, and they also canceled my driver license. And my matter right now is the government of Iran brought the new bill. That's the name of bill is the chastity and hijab law. Imagine in 6 years ago, we don't have any bill and law against women, but now they bring in a new law. Imagine how they want to suppress women in Iran. And I really urge the Canadian government to hear us and help us to put with each other this gender apartheid for international law, and help us to help Iranian and Afghan people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jangravi. Next, we have an equally extraordinary individual. We are really privileged to have with us here today Ms. Zarifa Yagoubi, who was subjected to terrible injustice at the hands of the Taliban. She has actually come here from the city of Calgary, and she just arrived from Afghanistan approximately 4 months ago. So it's a great pleasure and a privilege to introduce Ms. Yagoubi as well, and there will be translation to go along with it. Thank you.
به نام خداوندی که تمام انسانها را یکسان آفریده است. من یک زنی هستم که نام و معنی اون عشق، شجاعت، خوشگذاری و امید است، اما در کشور من این نام امروز جرم هست.
In the name of the God who created all human beings equal, I am a woman whose name means love, courage, self-transcendence, and hope. But in my country, this name is a crime. Today in my country, my name means disappear, imprisoned, and broken. My family and friends know me as Zarifa Yaqubi.
امروز در کشوری که اون ناامیدی، زندان شدن، ترور شدن، تجاوز شدن و به هر حال فامیل و دوستانم را مرا به نام ظریفه یعقوبی میشناسد. من بعد از آمدن گروه طالب ها به خاطر حق و عدالت به جاده های کابل دست به اعتراض زدم.
After the arrival of Taliban, I came out to the streets of Kabul for the sake of justice and I protested.
اما این گروه وحشی من را به 3 دلایل بازداشت و زندانی کردند. 1 زن بودنم، 2 شیعه بودنم، 3 هزاره بودنم.
But this wild group convicted me for 3 reasons. 1, because I was a woman. 2, because asking for my rights. And 3, because I'm a Hazara.
هرچی که به یاد آوردن روزهای سخت و شبهایی که در زندان بر من سخت است، اما خوشبختانه پشت سر گذاشتم. اما من مسئولیت دارم در قبال اونایی که هنوز در سلولهای افراطی زندان در اون نقطه‌ای که تاریک قرار دارن. پس بیاییم از اون روزها و اون شبها یاد کنیم. روزهایی که زندان طالب بودیم هرگز نمیتوانیم اون را به آسانی فراموش کنیم، اما اون جنگجویان بیرحمانه و تروریست هایی که تشنه به خون انسان ها تا توانست من را مورد شکنجه و وحشتناک روحی و جسمی قرار بدهند.
Although it's hard for me to remember the days and nights of prison, I cannot leave the thoughts behind that. I have a responsibility for those who are still in prison cells in the dark place. The day that I was imprisoned by the Taliban, I can never forget. Those merciless warriors and bloodthirsty terrorists subjected me to terrible mental and physical torture. The negative effect of the abuse still haunt my soul, and in order for me to try to forget it, even for a split moment, I take medication.
من از شما میخوایم لحظه خود رو که ماها در زندان طالب بودیم و همکارای ما در زندان طالب است، شماها خود را به جای ما قرار بدهین و اون شروعی که با توهین به قوم و مذهب آغاز می شود و لحظه موهای سرت را به شکنجهگاه های زندان انتقال می دهد.
In the prison that was run by the Taliban, there was no medical assistance of any sort. I want you all to put yourself in my position and imagine the nights I spent in full torture. I start with insulting my kind and my religious belief, then goes on to be pulled by my hair and taken to the dark room, and followed by being electrocuted and left unconscious from so much pain.
با شوک برقی و لکت‌های اونها بیهوش میشوید و در جاهای انداخته میشوید، بیدار میشوید که تا بر رویتان آبی سرد انداخته و تمام بدنتان پر از درد هستند. و این همه ظلم و چالش هایی که طالبان به زنای افغانستان روا دانسته، بدانید که چون از دیوارها صف اون صداهای زنان را میشنوید که غرق در گریه هستند، میگوید من را شکنجه کنین، لباس من را نکشین و تجاوز نکنین.
And when you finally open your eyes, you are lying on the cold floor, considering yourself lucky to have made it alive. You can hear the walls echo, the voice and the cries of the women who are screaming to be tortured, but pleading not to be raped and have their clothes taken off.
صدای مردایی رو میشنوین که از صفهای دیوار آویزان هستن، میگوین که لطفاً مرا خلاص کنید، بکشین اما شکنجه نکنین. بعد از این همه شکنجه کردن حتی اجازه حمام کردن را نداری و خود ما 41 روز در زندان طالب بودیم. متاسفانه حتی اجازه ملاقات با خانواده خود نداشتیم.
Then you can also hear the cries of men begging to be finished or killed from unbearable pain that Taliban have put them through. And then after all that torture, not being allowed to bath for 41 days and not allowed to even see a single family member.
سخت است با این حرفا که اون شرایط را بیان کنیم. من میدونم زنانی که زندانی این گروه وحشتناک هست مانند نرگیز، جولیا، ندا و مانند منیجه که هنوز در زندان طالب است. به جرم عدالت خواهی مدت 16 ماه میشه همکار ما در زندان طالب تو هنوز است. نهادهای بین المللی هیچ اقدام بر از این نکرد.
It's hard to express those conditions with words. And I know that women who were imprisoned in its brutal group, like Nargis and Wasima, Julia, Nida, etc., and the women who are still there, like Manija, what they are going through.
این روزها در تاریخ ثبت می شود. تاریخ قضاوت می کند که دنیا امروز مرد و زن افغانستان را فراموش کردند. بنابراین خواست ما، تقاضای ما من حیث یک شهروند افغانستان از دولت کانادا این است: اولین کشور باشین در کنار زنهای افغانستان بیستین و در راستای بررسمی شناختن اپارتاید جنسیتی در افغانستان پیش قدم باشین و بر رسمیت بشناسین.
These days will be written in history, and history will show that the world has forgotten the men and women of Afghanistan. Therefore, I ask the government of Canada to be the first country to stand beside women and stand beside recognizing gender apartheid. Therefore, I ask the government of Canada to be the first country to stand by the... Sorry, it's repeated. Therefore, I ask the government of Canada to be the first country to stand beside the women of Afghanistan and recognize gender apartheid. Thank you.
Thank you for your incredibly moving and touching testimony, for the tremendous work that you were doing. So at this point, having heard from some of the individuals who have arrived here in Ottawa, we will open it up to questions from the media.
There are currently no questions from anybody in the room at this time. There aren't any questions from anybody online either. So at that point, this would conclude the press conference.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Very grateful.